Joe Burrow was asked a question about, who's the best quarterback in the NFL. And he kind of said so much as, listen, you got to say Patrick Mahomes right now. And then Jamarr Chase was asked about it. And kind of in a joking way, Jamarr Chase said a couple of days later, Pat who? And then Patrick Mahomes decided at the championship ring ceremony, the Super Bowl ring ceremony, to take a picture and post it on his social media and say, that who? And then...
Ooh.
And then, it's kind of, obviously the Orlando Brown Jr. signing was a big loss for Kansas City. He's now in Cincinnati. You've got Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have talked about what a big loss that was. And so then Travis Kelce was on his New Heights podcast a couple of days ago, and he was asked by his brother Jason Kelce about this sort of Jamar Chase slight at Patrick Mahomes and how Patrick Mahomes took it. Let's take a listen.
We got Chiefs beef. Earlier this week, Bengals receiver Jamar Chase told reporters Pat who in reference to Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow conceding that Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Thought it was a little bold.
Yeah.
The guy's a two-time league MVP, two-time Super Bowl MVP. To say Pat who is like...
It's a little disrespectful. Pat didn't like it. Mahomes tweeted a photo of himself at the Chiefs ring ceremony. Glad you guys had fun doing that. Wearing his 2 Super Bowl rings with the declaration, that's who. I just wish it would have devolved to who? Mahomes. Who? Mahomes.
I see where you're going with that. I don't know if that plays here because nobody's name is Mike, and that's the reference you're going to is Mike Jones.
But it's who? Mahomes.
Nope, not letting you go there.
I just want this to be chanted in Chiefs stadiums. Like, who? Mahomes. Who? Mahomes.
Yeah, man. It is what it is, dog. Who doesn't love some good locker room banter, man? Shout out to Jamar Chase for, holding it down for his QB, but don't you ever disrespect Pat Mahomes now.
See, this is great for the league. Not that part.
That's not. I think you're trying to manufacture some beef here, bro.
This is all I'm saying. I'm not trying to manufacture anything. There is clearly a rivalry, and it's a rivalry that didn't exist 3 years ago.
I'll give you that.
We are watching a rivalry be born. You know how many tired rivalries there are in the NFL?
What? I'll definitely 100% give you all facts on that.
We
that
need
is a rivalry.
this, LaVar. We need a damn rivalry in the NFL. The Bears.
Well, they better re-sign Joe Burrow.
The Bears-Packers isn't a rivalry anymore. The Bears have been their doormat for 20 years now. Like all these tired rivalries.
What if your boy Joe Burrow ends up in? I've been thinking about this, right? What if your boy Joe Burrow ends up in Dallas after this year? What if some way, somehow, he ends up leaving Cincinnati because he's not signable because they can't afford it, and you see the first biggest contract over Deshaun Watson, and it's because they've unloaded Dak Prescott and brought in one Joe Burrow.
Okay. If
it would totally destroy the rivalry because then Cincinnati would go back to being bad again.
I know it would, but that would be the worst decision the city of Cincinnati's ever made since they started putting chili on ramen noodles. It's not like that
doesn't sound bad. Actually.
That's right now. It probably doesn't. But there's no shot Joe Burrow's ever leaving the Cincinnati Bengals. It's never happening unless it's 10, 12 years from now.
I just think the changing economics of the game, some of these franchises aren't going to be able – you're going to see surprises. You're going to see surprises. And not to derail what you're saying, if all things given, Joe Burrow remains in Cincinnati and they're able to sign him and then able to – this is important too – able to continue to hold on to the talent that they have on that team after signing Joe Burrow, then they definitely are on that trajectory to be just as good, if not better, than the Kansas City Chiefs in these upcoming years. Are they on each other's schedule regular season this year?
Of course, a New Year's Eve. Yeah,
New Year's Eve.
They should.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's a good pool. I'll give you that.
They should be on each other's schedule every single season
year
moving forward.
I would agree.
It's like
for now, at least.
Because I was thinking about this. If you were to ask people, what are the great rivalries in the NFL? They'll give the usuals. They'll give Bears, Packers. They'll give Cowboys, Commanders, Ravens, Steelers.
No, they don't use that anymore.
But that's my point. And I think a lot of these have sort of run their course. That people don't have the appreciation for them because, man, when you guys played the Cowboys, was that not a big game?
That was still a big game.
And now it feels like it's just kind of. I mean, it's cool. Like it's cool for longtime fans in Washington and in Dallas, but it doesn't have the same appeal. Even I would argue, even Ravens Steelers doesn't have the same appeal. There's something missing from that rivalry, and I don't know if it's the quality of the quarterback play because Roethlisberger's gone and maybe there's not the same physicality in Baltimore that there was in years past when you had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis there. But it just feels like when you go up and down the NFL, a lot of those old-time rivalries feel like they've kind of run their course at this point, or at least they're in a little bit of a lull. And maybe they'll spark back up if they've got better play at quarterback or they get back some of the old ingredients from it. This one, though, was nowhere to be found 2 years ago. And all of a sudden – you see them match up in the postseason when they do. You see Cincinnati's dominance over Kansas City the first couple of times they play. And when I say dominance, those were close games. But, Patrick Mahomes couldn't beat Joe Burrow. And now you've got the mayors going back and forth with each other getting before a playoff game. You got back and forth in the offseason. The Orlando Brown Jr. signing by Cincinnati, I think, is completely flown under the radar. I think it's one of the most impactful signings. And when your own players in Kansas City, like Mahomes and Kelce that we've talked about, have bemoaned losing Orlando Brown Jr. and losing him to Cincinnati, I just think this thing's going to be here for the next 10 years. This is going to be phenomenal football to watch. Every year they should be scheduled.
If you're right, and we're still here 10 years from now doing this show, that would be a pretty bold call. And I think I think you're on par. Like, I think you can hit on this one. I just think that a lot of things have to happen in today's NFL for you to have any type of rivalry. Like, you got to think about when rivalries were created, it was created because you did have players going head to head.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Tom Brady and Peyton Manning was a rivalry. I mean, I know people might think I'm crazy, but I did not think that there was a rivalry between them.
New England.
I don't know how many times they played. I know they played.
They played several times, and especially in the postseason. But the Patriots, by and large, were pretty dominant in those matchups.
Yeah, I didn't see that as a. I saw the Cowboys with who they had, or the Raiders and who they had when they had Lyle Alzado and Howie Long and all those guys.
Cowboys Niners in the 90s was fantastic.
Cowboys Steelers. Like you got to think, rivalries were created pre-free agency, right? So you're seeing, the point I'm getting at is you were seeing players of the same name play against each other every single year on the same teams. This NFL, they don't keep players as long as they did before. They will let a player go. Like, Tyreek Hill leaves Kansas City. Like, why would Tyreek Hill get out of Kansas City? Like, you see guys that will come and go on these teams. Frank Clark, gone. He's part of those teams. To me, when you start seeing those types of things happen where guys aren't, like, how long was Frank Clark a Kansas City Chief for?
Oh, God.
I don't know how long. I don't think it was very long.
Long enough that you think of him as a Chief. Like,
agreed.
Yeah.
But how long is that? Let's look it up. I know we don't have Ethan. Can you get it?
I got it.
Yeah,
so he got to Kansas City in 2019 after he spent 4 years in Seattle. So he was in Kansas City 4 years? Yeah.
4 years?
Yeah. Like,
come on, man. 4 years. Like, that's not – if you got guys leaving after 3-4 years, like, you could possibly create a team rivalry, a team versus team rivalry, but I don't know how relevant it will be. Like, you got used to seeing Ray Lewis, and company, Ed Reed being a part of a game where Troy Polamalu and Joey Porter or James Ferrier, those guys, and Larry Foote, those guys are in those games.
You could even go even more recent than that. Seattle, San Francisco, when you had Sherman and all those, Legion of Boom, like when they would match up, man, it did. Like they were in the playoffs this year. It didn't feel the same. It just like they played this year in the postseason, in the playoffs in San Francisco, and it just didn't feel the same.
I just think it's very hard to create rivalries in this type of NFL.
Yeah.